It's really exciting to be here, and Megan and I are both super excited. And I see some familiar faces, which is really cool, and over there also. But we will get started right now. We are here to talk about creative alchemy. Creative alchemy is using 4 key ingredients that you already have. So your relationships, your passion projects, your portfolio, and even your personality, and using these ingredients to turn into career goals, right? Megan and I both work in advertising right now, so a lot of the things that we're going to be talking about are going to be filtered under the advertising lens, but take what we say, take our tips and advice, and mold it and use it for your own field.
Yeah, hopefully everything we talk about today should be broad enough that it can apply to any career that you're looking forward to pursuing. But just bear with us if we say a lot of advertising stuff, because that's what we live day in and day out.
Okay, and who we are, I'm Monica Lowe. I was born and bred in Texas, and I moved here to Brooklyn in '05 to attend Pratt, so I graduated here in '09 from the Comedy department with a major in advertising art direction. So right now I work in advertising. I'm a senior art director at KBS, which is an agency in the city. Not only do I work in advertising, I also consider myself a photographer. I dabble in food photography, food styling. I love eating, I love cooking, I love recipe testing, recipe creation, and I am obsessed with bacon. Like, really obsessed. I throw these apocalypse parties, potluck style, and everyone has to bring a pork-related dish, right? So from the drinks to the appetizers, all the way to dessert, and we just gorge ourselves all day and just sweat bacon and grease out.
Hi, I'm Megan Nuttall, and I work with Monica at Kirschenbaum as her copywriter, so we work together as a team. I'm originally from Oregon, grew up there, went to school at the University of Oregon, graduated technically with a degree in journalism, but an emphasis in advertising and a minor in monkeys and apes. Then I came out to New York for an internship, and I've been here ever since. Somehow I've gotten labeled as a crazy cat lady. I don't think I'm crazy. I do like cats. I don't even have one right now, but I think it's just something that happened along the way. I blame it on being an only child or something. Outside of that, I'm really into like silly crafts that involve glitter and Mod Podge and things like that. So when I'm not working at work, I'm at home cutting and gluing and scrapbooking and things that usually middle-aged women like. And this is a photo bomber with us. We don't know him, but he's very outgoing, so I thought I'd bring him with us today.
We are getting into our first ingredient, relationships. So utilizing the people that you already know, right? How can they help you? Megan and I created this map that we're going to show you. It's just taking you through our career journey, right? We graduated 3 years ago, and we met a lot of people that we knew already from school who have helped us along the way.
So, my little bubble's up there in the corner that says Megan. Like I mentioned before, I went to the University of Oregon, and through some of my professors there, I was able to interview at an internship in New York via Skype at a little digital agency called Poke. I ended up getting the internship, and the whole way that I got the interview was one of the people who worked there was an ex-student of my professor, so they've stayed in contact, and he reached out to her saying like, hey, do you have any young kids that want to come work for free? And I did, so that worked out. Moved to New York, which is where I met Monica. She was also interning at Poke.
So all the while, I'm at Pratt here. I did a couple internships during the school year through at sophomore and junior year, but senior year, that was when I was like, holy shit, I have to get my act together. I have to find a job before I graduate because I don't know if I'm going to be able to support myself and live in New York, and I don't want to leave yet. I want to make it. And so I started going to my classes. I started to look at them as a job interview, right? all the professors, especially here at Pratt, are already working in the field. So they may not be able to hire me themselves, but they know the people who can. So, and they did. Two of my professors, my copywriting professors, hired me on at Plum Agency, their own agency. One of my senior project professors got me some freelance gigs at Ogilvy, which is another huge advertising agency. And my other senior project professor recommended me for the position at Poke, the internship at the really sweet little digital shop, and that's where I met Megan.
So I ended up working at Poke for about 9 months, and Monica, after interning, went and did some freelance work at Ogilvy, so we weren't really working together anymore. We were still on good terms and friends and, like stayed in touch via Twitter and things like that. And she knew, just through our conversations, that after about a year I was looking for a different agency experience, wanted to get into maybe a little bit less digital, more traditional. I know that sounds weird, but as a copywriter, it was something I was craving at the time. I wanted to write TV and things like that. And an opportunity fell into her lap from one of her coworkers at Ogilvy to work doing freelance work at TBWA Chiat. And she actually reached out to me and said, hey, do you want to apply as a team? Which is something I had never done before, nor did I even know it was possible. But so we applied and ended up getting hired thanks to her previous boss.
Yeah, from Ogilvy. My creative director left, went to Chiat, and decided he needed some more teams, reached out to me and said, you want to join, but you're going to need a partner. And so I reached out to Megan, because we worked together before and we worked well.
And then, so we did the whole freelance boat for like 6 months, and freelance is different for everyone. The type of freelance we were doing, we were on a week-to-week renewal basis. So come Friday at 5, we never knew if we had a job on Monday. They would tell us like Friday at 5 o'clock if they needed us to come in on Monday, which was great in the beginning because it was like, yeah, freedom, we're making freelancers rates. But after a while, it was like, health insurance, job security, And so we started thinking, okay, we need a more permanent home. Started looking around, we were interviewing a few places. All of a sudden, out of the blue, we got this email from an agency called Publicis, which we hadn't contacted, saying, hey, I got your book, do you guys want to come in? And we were just like,
Who gave them our book?
this is awesome, but how did this happen? Turns out somebody that Monica knew primarily through Twitter had sent our book in. He was working at Chiat at the time, but we had yet to really meet him in person. Sometimes things like that happen in big agencies. But we went in. We still didn't know who had recommended us until we got there. We had to ask them, which was a little awkward. But that's how we got into Publicis, was through this person off of Twitter that we hadn't even asked for help from, which was awesome. And we worked at Publicis for about 2 years until 2 months ago when we decided that we needed, throw ourselves into the fire again, learn some new skills, get into a new place, which is how we've ended up at Kirschenbaum. But kind of the same thing happened again. This time we were actively looking, getting our book together, starting to send it out to places when this email came into our inbox from the recruiter at Kirschenbaum saying, like, hey, do you want to come in? And it turns out that our old creative directors from Chiat were now working at Kirschenbaum and gave them our names. So all of this to say isn't, look at the places that we've worked, but how we've been able to get jobs. It's all through people. It's through people that you don't look at and see them as a door to a new job. When I met Monica interning, we were friends, we were coworkers. I never thought, one day Monica's gonna get me a job, I should be nice to her. It was just, we got along and we hung out, and then it ended up happening that something fell into her lap that I could help fulfill that need. And that's how it's kept snowballing for us. These people, you keep them in their lives and they open more doors for you. And people said this to me when I was in school, and I always thought it was just kind of one of those things that people say. They would say, look to your right and your left, and these are the people that you're going to be working with in the next year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, 5 year, 10 year. And it's totally coming true for me now. And that's what's represented on the side of this slide right now. All of these logos are people that we worked with in school, people that we worked with at jobs, and where they've gone with their careers since we've known them. We've never worked at half of these places, but we know people who work there now. Just, by keeping in touch with the people that are already in your lives and being nice to them and nurturing those relationships along the way, Now we feel like we could contact all these places to ask if maybe they have opportunities. If, heaven forbid we get let go, you never know what's gonna happen. But all these doors are open that we didn't even know existed before, which is the really cool thing. Like, even if you stay put at one place forever, your coworkers are gonna move on, and when they move on, you're in at those new places that they've moved on to, which is the awesome thing.
So you have your relationships. There's something else that you also have, and that's your passions. What are you passionate about? Food photography, as I told you guys before, like food styling, food photography, like that's all stuff that I love. Right? If advertising somehow just doesn't work out for me in the end, I have something else to fall back on. There's something else that I love. Here's an example of a pulled pork cinnamon bun that I created this summer for a barbecue. It's just little stuff like that that makes me happy. I have a friend who's an illustrator who's an amazing, amazing, amazing illustrator. He works Monday through Fridays at home, doing all his freelance gigs. But on the weekends, he takes improv classes. It's a reason for him to get out of the house, right? To get out of his PJs. He goes out there and he meets new people and he performs, right? And that's also helped in his career. He's gained this newfound confidence. He's able to project himself to present his work better. So when he goes to Comic-Con, which is a really big deal for illustrators and graphic artists, he's able to be charismatic. He's able to present and pitch his work a lot better, and that's helped him in the long run. Another example, my boyfriend is a producer, and he works in advertising as well. It's not his passion. His passion lies in writing, and he writes comedy, and he's really great at it. Currently, he's working on an animated short. He's writing and producing the whole thing. It's his baby. It's his passion project. These are, your passions are the things that drive you, right? And when you pour your heart and soul into something like that, and you're going to gain notoriety for it, people are going to notice you.
And so, what does that mean? It means let's make stuff that we actually care about. Yes, we all have our 9-to-5 jobs, and maybe it is the thing that we care about, and maybe it's not. But regardless, we need to make sure that we're making things that we care about. And the great thing about this is we all already care about something, so we can do this. We can make something that we care about, and usually if we care about it, we know about it. And most of the time, this is going to be our best work, because when you're excited about something, it shows through and through. So when we start making things that we care about, automatically that's our best work. Which leads us to our next point. What goes in fuels what comes out. If we don't care about anything, how are we ever going to be creative people? If we aren't interested, how can we become interesting? So all those things that were on the first slide, maybe they don't directly apply to what we have to do in our 9-to-5, but they give us something to talk about and something to pull from. I'm a copywriter. I hate reading copywriting blogs. I think it's boring. But I'm really into science fiction and even just like normal science stuff. And that has come in handy so much throughout brainstorming and things, just being able to take the world that we live in and put a different lens on it. And that's really what your passions are. They're a lens that you can bring to the table and apply what you know and what you care about to all your work so that you stand out and you're giving something new and interesting for people to latch on to. And through all this, we're actually creating our own personal brands. I know it sounds like a really corporate thing and I don't want to be branded, but the truth is we do all have our own personal brands. And the awesome thing is that we can make them whatever we want because we're in charge of them. No one's going to say your brand is wrong. It's you, it's who you are. And why do we need personal brands? Because this is how people remember us. You meet millions and millions and millions and millions of people today, and all your resumes, they sit in a pile, all their portfolios sit in a pile, but what makes them different is who you are and your personal brand and bringing that to the table. And more importantly, it gives people something to remember you by. Everybody knows that Monica loves food. That's great,
but more importantly, it makes it easy for people to talk to her. Like, I sit by her all day long. So many people walk by and tell her about the bacon shortage. I can't tell you. But they hear that she likes bacon, and people start buying her bacon things too. Like, we'll come back from meetings and there'll be like bacon candy canes on her desk and things like that. And it's not that, bacon is this magic tool that's going to make Monica better at her job, but it makes people feel like, oh, I know what to talk to Monica about. She likes food. I know what food is. And it's the same thing. Exactly. It makes us like accessible, approachable people, because it's all about building those relationships. And sometimes we forget that bosses and employers are people too, and they want to have nice conversations about real things. They don't always want to be throwing out buzzwords and like return on investment and all these things and what can you bring to the table. We live and breathe with our coworkers. We want to love them and we want them to be excited about things. And the awesome thing is you don't have to read a book to figure out how to do that. We all already know and do that outside of work, so it's just a matter of bringing that into our professional lives.
And that segues into your portfolio. This is something that you guys, I'm sure, are all working on. Remember always to put your passion in your portfolio, right? Be it the content of it, or the design of it, how you package it. Make sure that your passion shows, who you are as a person shows through. What is going to keep that potential employer, that recruiter on your page. Everyone, they're swimming in a sea of blanks. When they need to hire somebody, they're going to be going through things like crazy. Like, what's going to make your page stand out and, keep them away from that little X at the top?
And one thing that my professor always stressed with me throughout school was making sure that you do have a piece in your portfolio that's about you. It's not a diary by any means or a scrapbook or anything like that, but it's something that you're an expert in or that you care about. For me, this was actually really hard to figure out. I felt like struggling. I was never in sports in school. I couldn't sing, I couldn't act. Like, I didn't have a thing like most people did. But what I did do all throughout, college and school is I had a lot of odd jobs that felt seemingly unrelated to where I wanted to end up in my professional career. Like, I was a blueberry picker, a babysitter. I worked at KFC/A&W frying chicken. I worked at a Costco pushing shopping carts, things that didn't ever really feel like they were going to get me farther in life. But I was talking to my professor about this, and she was like, oh, tell me about those experiences. And all these stories started coming out from me, and she said, this is what your project needs to be. Write a book about everything you've learned through all your odd jobs. So I did, and I titled it Lessons from a Working Girl. At the time, I didn't realize a working girl is a euphemism for a prostitute. I haven't changed the title since then. That mistake has actually become like a nice icebreaker. But the slides up here are examples from that book, and they're just stupid, bad jokes that I wrote that I learned at my jobs. Like, the first one says, 5 years at KFC and A&W make you A, manager, B, pregnant, C, diabetic, D, all of the above. And that was just something I noticed about the culture of working in that community, working in a fast food restaurant. And the middle one is how, stickers motivate kindergartners and workers. Like, we got stickers at KFC when we did a good job. It's just like having a star chart in kindergarten. And then the last one's from babysitting, worship, Jesus and the TV. All families have very strong feelings about both of these things. So at the end of the day, these have nothing to do with advertising. But I put it in my book, and this ended up being a piece that everybody wanted to talk to me about in interviews. They didn't care about my fake ads for C-SPAN and my 360 campaign that was gonna use social media to do blah, 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 blah. They wanted to talk about this book. And the cool thing about it is that it showed my voice, and it showed a little bit of who I am and where I came from. So all that to say is everybody's an expert in something. It may feel like, I don't know, I'm not a figure skater, I can't do a piece on figure skating, but I guarantee you there's something that you know about that you know more about than the next guy. And so why not leverage that? Use the things you already have and are passionate about to drive your projects forward.
Your portfolio is always in progress. It's never going to be finished. And even when you're working, you're not going to be done with it. Like, I promise you that, and it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing, actually. Your portfolio should be a work in progress, and you should not be afraid to show that work in progress. You know, that opens up doors for conversations. You take that piece and you ask for feedback, you ask for help, and it's okay to ask for help. You know, we're always willing to give advice, and that opens up that communication of you and me, right? You can talk to me, and I'll give you advice, and you can come back and show me that, and we've just created a relationship. So always be working on your portfolio. It doesn't always have to be done, and I can't tell you how many people that I graduated with decided to take some time off to work on it, right? To give it a little time to fix up their portfolio, and then they'll come back and they'll start job hunting. While you're doing that, there are tons of people out there snatching those jobs away from you. You know, you're wasting time. You are falling behind. You know, things change, trends change. Always be working on your stuff, but always be open to communication. Go out and talk to people and show it off. Show off your thoughts, you know, show off your personality, show yourself off, and, you know, good things will come.
And the fun thing about showing work in progress, even though it's really scary, I know it's hard to put things out there that you don't feel like are perfect, but it's something we have to do at work every day. We're never ready for our creative reviews. We're always like,
Last minute visual.
But what our reviews end up being are working sessions. And this is great, especially, you know, Monica and I are in a position where we can give people jobs. At best, we can send somebody's work that we feel comfortable with to someone in our company who will then send it to someone who has the power to hire someone. But what we can do is help people get their work to the point where we feel like it's going to get them hired. And that's why asking for advice, not jobs, is tremendously helpful. Like, I feel bad when people say, like, hey, can you help me get a job? And I'm like, because in all honesty, it's like, well, no, I can try. Like, if I feel like your work is in a good spot where I feel comfortable sending it on, I can totally do that. But when you ask for help, it makes me feel important, like, oh, okay. And then we sit down, we talk about your work, you take the criticism, fix it up, send it back to me, and this is forming a relationship, which is great if you think about the first point that we talked to. You know, you're forming a working relationship with this person. And right now, I can't hire anybody, but who's to say in a few years, maybe I can. And even if then you are working somewhere else, I'll think about you and I'll remember, like, hey, they were really responsive and engaging and they had the courage to step out and talk to me about that. People remember these things. Like, that's how we've gotten our jobs, is people remembered us by asking for help. To have answers. Anyone can ask for help. We don't have to have answers, just questions. And so
when you're talking to these people, or if you started a new job, you know, what first impressions are you making? You know, how are you coming off as? Optimism is your biggest asset. It really is. You know, you guys are a breath of fresh air. It's so awesome to see and interact with new and young creatives who come in, because you guys bring a fresh perspective, right? You bring fresh and new ideas to the table that we've never thought of. It's really easy to get jaded, and it's always, you know, really great to see someone who's really eager to learn, who comes in and who's extremely positive and optimistic and just ready to get their hands dirty, and that is contagious. You know, that sort of positivity is really contagious, and we love being around that. Another thing to note, like your coworkers, I spend more time with Megan than I do with my boyfriend. You spend more time with these coworkers than you do with significant others. So be somebody that you want to be around. You know, employers and recruiters are going to look for that. They want to find people who are going to work well and fit well with their teams. And don't give up. Don't give up. This is going to be so scary, but you will fail. You're going to hit some walls, and your ideas will sometimes get trampled on, but that is okay because it happens to the best of us. You know, you have to take those and learn how to fail better, right? You got to get some thicker skin and grow a pair, and you know, you don't give up. You turn those harsh criticisms into collaboration, and you don't ever give up.
Which leads us to a very important point. Not anyone can be a genius, but anyone can work hard and be kind. We all want to be a genius. I want to have that idea that's gonna like change the world, but that's really, really, really hard. Like, I know it's what we all want, and eventually that's gonna come, but what we can do today is we can try our best and we can be nice. I know it sounds like something that your mom told you on your first day of school, like, just try your best, honey, and be nice to the other kids, and everyone will like you and things will be okay. But that's kind of what Monica and I try to do every day, and it's been working out really well for us. We don't always have the best ideas in the world. A lot of the time when we bring stuff to our bosses, they kill absolutely everything. And that'll happen time and 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 time again. It's really frustrating, like, but what else can we do except for try again? And the cool thing is, if you do keep working hard, eventually you will get to those genius ideas. It might take a long time, but you will get there. And the easy part is that you know how to get there. Just try your best. As stupid and as simple as that sounds, that's really all it takes. And one thing that we've noticed throughout all of this is that asking questions is one thing we can always do. We don't have to have answers, but we do always need to have questions. You know, when we go into reviews with our bosses, we might not have the solution to the problem we've been tasked with at hand, but we have where we are and questions surrounding problems about how we can evolve it from there. So, I think with that, we would like to move into a Q&A section. If hopefully some people have questions for us, things that didn't make sense, things you're dying to know, things you just want to talk about.
Birthday. Yeah. What's your name?
My name is Candace,
Hi, Candace.
and I have a question regarding getting into account management.
Yeah.
Now, I know that for creatives, a portfolio is extremely important. How do I show my account management talent or what I can bring to the table when it's not creative?
That's an awesome question. And I think that's something that schools all over the country are trying to figure out. I know a lot of employers are now asking for portfolios for account management and strategy type jobs, which is something that a lot of schools aren't prepping students for, in all honesty. I have friends who have been in account management, and they'll do a piece about something about managing teams or anything like that. It doesn't have to look stellar, but it's a new way of approaching a subject. Like maybe a case study in managing bike paths in a community. That's probably doesn't make sense, but just some sort of example that's not your resume. Or if you do work closely with a creative team, I've seen a lot of people take the creative and kind of break it out in a case study format about how they contributed to that project, which has seemed to be pretty successful for me because it shows how you work with that group, which is really important in account management. I definitely think there's room to make something.
To bring something.
And at the end of the day, it needs to show what you're bringing to the table. So how you bring that to life is up to you and what you're good at, and I'd say what you're interested in. It's a great question.
Thank you.
It's nice, you know, when you show and people can interact with it, you know, margin and stuff.
Yeah, I don't think I mean, it depends what you're doing. I don't know a lot about art type things. Maybe there is some need there to have like physical pieces. But for me, being a copywriter, it was so expensive to make prints and little books and leave behinds for people. And at the end of the day, they were just like, oh, give me your email and a link to your site. And I was like, I just spent my paycheck at Kinko's. I do think we live in a world where we crave tangible things, but we share like digital things.
I guess I didn't ask what you were working.
Yeah.
On
Graphic design.
Graphic design, gotcha. So yeah, I think links in.
Yeah. And I would say make a business card that's awesome.
Yeah.
You know? So like there's your physical thing that you leave behind in person,
Right.
but then have an online presence.
Like I know a lot of illustrators have awesome leave behinds, you know, like, and I have them pinned up in my cubicle. Like I have, you know, really, really pretty pictures that I enjoy looking at every day. And when it comes time to hire an illustrator for a project that I'm working on, you know, those are the people I'm gonna hire.
Yeah, and Working in advertising, Monica gets a lot of swag from illustrators and photographers that are already represented by a company, but they're having this company produce all of their work and send out these nicely bound books and things like that. So I feel like for us just getting started, like, it's a really big hurdle,
Yeah.
you know? Awesome. Other questions?
Writers. It was all art directors, so we were writing a lot of our own copy. It wasn't until working in a bigger agency, a more traditional agency, they do look for people in teams that way. Not at the smaller digital shops as much, but I've noticed in bigger traditional agencies, they will hire in teams. They want the team to be, you know, like well-oiled machine, right? It's like someone you can work well with already instead of throwing you into the fire with like some random person you don't know.
Yeah, it definitely depends on the place. Like if you're looking at a 20-person shop and you apply as a team, they're gonna be like,
Yeah.
But working at maybe a like 100-person agency, chances are they do work in teams there. And that's not to say that you can't get a job just applying on your own. That happens every day. But it's a little bit harder for agencies when they have a slot to fill. If there's already a set that they can just plug in, that helps a lot for them.